What's going on, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review Ludacris's 2008 mixtape, The Preview. This was basically, like the album says, the preview to Ludacris's late 2008 album, Theater of the Mind, and it is composed of some original productions on here. There is some new stuff, but a lot of it is freestyles over instrumentals, kind of similar to the Lil Wayne style that he popularized with like Dedication series and that type of stuff in the Drought mixtapes. Ludacris is pretty compelling to hear on these songs, but the problem with it is on every song that he raps on another beat, for the most part, it has another guest on there that kind of blocks the true augmentation of Ludacris. I mean, he basically brings every folk from Disturbing the Peace on here. You get like lesser known folks like Willie North Pole, Small World. Even Players Circle, I-20, all these years later shows up. Block Exchange, Lil Fate, Shauna. I mean, the whole cast is here on here, and it kind of detracts from the project just because, I don't know, it feels like I would have liked to have seen Ludacris really go in on some of these, but he kind of is more of a commodity. And it's the same thing he did with the Theater of the Mind album, where a lot of his best songs off that project, like Nasty Girl and songs like Nasty Girl and like I Do It for Hip Hop with Jay-Z and Nas on there. It just feels like it. I almost want to say that Ludacris kind of hid behind his guests a little bit. I don't know. I mean, Ludacris can freestyle, and I would have liked to have seen that in a more retroactive sense, but it just kind of is like short, kind of minute and a half or maybe 45-second freestyles, and then the guest gets some shine, which is just kind of odd because, you know, folks, all these years later, I mean, it was nice hearing again from Lil Fate, I-20, and Shauna, but all these years removed from like their creative spotlight, it just kind of felt odd to not get Ludacris on some better time. I don't know. It's good, but it's kind of half and half. I mean, in some cases, I like hearing from Lil Fate, I-20, and Shauna again, but on the other side of things, I would have liked to have just seen Ludacris what he could have made some of these songs out to be. So that's kind of the concept. And there's not really any singles. There's not really any singles on this project, so I'm just going to go ahead and start trying to dissect this project so you get the concept of it. There are some good beats on here. I do like most of the beats that Ludacris freestyles and makes songs of his own too, like Three Kings by Slim Thug, Get Buck by Young Buck from his Buck the World album, The Boss by Rick Ross from his Trilla project, Blue Magic, which was kind of a street single from Jay-Z's American Gangster, Woodwheel by UGK, I Got Drank by Fraser Boy. I mean, there are some great ones on here, but for the most part, like I said, Ludacris is kind of a commodity because just about every single one of these has a guest on there that shortens Ludacris's microphone time. That's just kind of the concept where Lil Wayne, he would kind of do like 3/4 of a song freestyling to it, and then the last fourth of the song, like songs like 6 Foot 7 Foot or What's Next or songs like that, or even like the Grove Street Party remix that he did on Sorry for the Wait. I mean, he would throw a guest on there at like the tail end of the song, but Ludacris kind of splits it almost right down the middle, and I would almost say that the guest gets more shine on the song than Ludacris does, and it just is kind of disappointing that that kind of happens because it felt kind of lukewarm in exchange for that. I mean, I do kind of feel like he's on there enough, but it's just not enough of an example. I mean, Ludacris brags a lot on this project about killing the mic and being top tier, but it's so short-lived. I would have liked a little bit more kind of handiwork as far as being able to see that just kind of within the context of killing it within like 30 seconds and then handing it off to another cat who hasn't really does, you know, it's not like these guests are bad. I like hearing from 2 Chainz in his earlier days and Lil Fate again, seeing him all these years later, and I-20 all these years later, but it's not, I don't know, the compellingness behind it. I was kind of expecting Ludacris to do a little bit more with this, but it is good. I mean, it's just the fact that Ludacris is kind of a commodity on this project. There's some good ones. I forgot how good a beat that Blue Magic was when I first heard that song back in late 2007 when American Gangster came out. I used to really not like Blue Magic, but it's a pretty solid outgoing and kind of club bop on there. I definitely feel like Blue Magic, the beat, Really feels like a night venue, just kind of a substandard kind of lights flashing, nighttime, starry sky type atmosphere towards it. Still Tippin' is a beautiful kind of violin sample on the song. If you haven't heard Still Tippin' by Mike Jones, that's a great one. This kind of real syrupy Houston kind of feel. I mean, a lot of the dirty South beats that Ludacris chose on this project really have the effectiveness, and that's why I would have wanted way more Ludacris. Three Kings, The Boss, Blue Magic, even though that's not a Southern beat, Still Tippin', Wood Wheel by UGK, I Got Drank by Fraser Boy, Show Enough by Tayla or Tila. I don't know how to really say that dude's name, but just a lot of these are pretty southern fried, and that's definitely the concept. It's just like a miniature kind of southern gangsta kind of party that just needs to be showcased a lot more. But there's just like some stuff on here that where it is good Ludacris, it just feels like you're kind of getting an appetizer. And it's like I said, I mean, this project is called The Preview, so Ludacris kind of gave you like a nice teaser and sample and appetizer and that type of stuff, and then just throws the guests on there, which I think, and maybe he did that on purpose. Maybe because this project is called The Preview, he purposely only gave people a select amount of a commodity of his personal rhymes to kind of build anticipation for theater of the mind. But it's just kind of like, I mean, you look at the concept about it, it works in a negative effect just because I feel like seeing him be able to kill these songs wholesomely probably would have provided more hype for the album. It's kind of like what Lil Wayne did in 2007. He didn't shortchange the verses. He would kill it until you knew damn well that he killed the song. And it just feel like killing a song in 35 or 41 seconds is different than killing it in 2.5 minutes or something, which just does not happen very often, especially when folks like Play a Circle are on the song where there's actually two musicians on there and stuff like that, to where Ludacris even gets even shorter amount of shine on the song. So it's just kind of, that's the relative concept. But I will talk about some of these original beats. There's like 3 or 4 of them. There's Look What I Got, Pinky Shinin', Throw It Up, and Stay Together. And there's also like We Ain't Worried About You, which was a bonus track from the Japanese import of Ludacris's Release Therapy album. So there's about 5 new songs. I'll go ahead and talk about some of these. So I really didn't like Look What I Got. That's just off of Play a Circle. That's just a spare cut from Play a Circle's 2009 album. Ludacris is not even on there. I also didn't like Stay Together, which wound up being called Let's Stay Together, which was a bonus track off of Ludacris's Theater of the Mind. Really hated the production on that song. This was kind of a simple, kind of storybook sounding, kind of Broadway play type song that really was just terrible for the most part. I'm surprised that DJ Paul and Juicy J even did this beat. Just it was awkward and didn't really fit. And Pinky Shinin' was a great beat. I mean, this is produced by Mr. Lee, who's a guy who's a Southern producer who's produced for like Scarface, possibly Ghetto Boys, people like Devin the Dude, and even a little bit of UGK. Just a Texas producer. Definitely if you're from Texas and you know some of those cats, Paul Wall, Slim Thug, those type people, Mr. Lee is a classic producer from them, and he gives Ludacris a pretty damn good beat. I really liked Pinky Shine. I like the sample on the chorus. This was a sample of one of Ludacris's older verses. Easily kind of Southern fried, great smoking song, great hot box in the car type song. We needed way more songs like this. Throw It Up was another decent one. I really kind of like the beat on here. It's not quite as good as Pinky Shinin', but it's serviceable. It's just a serviceable kind of club bop. It's just interesting to kind of hear some of these songs back in the 2007, 2008 era of like club music, where it wasn't quite EDM and it wasn't quite songs like Low and like Buy You a Drink by T-Pain, that type flashiness and alcohol kind of drenched kind of themes. It just was like a typical song like Make It Rain by Fat Joe, that kind of, it felt like the song was recorded a long time ago. It didn't feel like it came out in 2008. Maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like more of like 2006. Lil Wayne didn't feel like he was on his Carter 3 vibes on that song, which would have been around the time when he dropped that. But I do like it, but I just think the beat is really kind of C plus B minus range. It's not extensively good, doesn't knock my socks off. And yeah, that's about. And I also didn't really care about We Ain't Worried About You from the bonus track from Release Therapy. I mean, it just felt like Scott Storch was trying to give Ludacris like one of these East Coast kind of like this Wu Tang or Locks type songs that just really, you get real lyrical on the song. You just try to showcase it's kind of more barrel chested and bravado inducing, but it just doesn't do a very good job of that. I mean, I know Ludacris can spit, but it's just that's a terrible beat to kind of try to attempt to do it on. I think he sounds better on songs like Pinky Shinin' and the Wood Wheel beat by UGK and that type of stuff, and even I Got Drank by Frazier Boy. Those are just some of the ones. Ludacris just sounds a lot better on like Southern production. I would have liked way more of that. So to kind of talk about, so I'm gonna go ahead and list the songs out of 18 because there's actually it says that there's 22 songs on here. 4 skits would make 18, but the thing about it is on the track listing there's actually only 21 songs, but there's 2 songs at the very end. One song is Put On by Jeezy, a remix of that, and then the other secret song is a song that's not even a rap song. It's called Sunglasses at Night by Corey Hart. And you probably heard that song somewhere if you've listened to like adult contemporary radio, but I didn't really appreciate. I mean, 2 Chainz is on that song too, but it just the mixture didn't quite work for me. But so I'll go ahead and list the 9.5 songs out of 18 I recommend to you, and we'll talk about that. So, Still Spittin', DTP Magic, uh, Big Ass House, Two Kings, Politics as Usual, Pinky Shinin', Show Nuff Revisited, Throw It Up, which is Busta Rhymes' song, I'm a Dog with Play His Circle, and Smokin' Big Kill with Shauna. Now, just to kind of talk about some of these beats, I mean, I recommend that you look this album up on Wikipedia because the beats that I chose were Still Tippin', Blue Magic by Jay-Z, Still Tippin' by Mike Jones, Blue Magic by Jay-Z, The Boss by Rick Ross, Three Kings by Slim Thug, Get Buck by Young Buck, Show Nuff by Taylor, uh, I Got Drank by Frazier Boy, Wood Wheel by UGK, and then like the 2 original beats, which would be Pinky Shinin' and Throw It Up. So that's just kind of the concept there. Like in terms of like what I mean, the problem I had with this mixtape, I'm gonna go ahead and score this. So me liking basically 9.5 out of 8. I'm gonna give this album this mixtape a 5.5 out of 10. I feel like a 5.5 out of 10 is pretty sufficient. I mean, it's middle of the road, has some gems on there, but not nearly enough original productions that kick ass. Like I really felt like the new material is kind of a letdown, considering if Ludacris wanted to make a preview, you would have thought that there would have been. I know Ludacris probably could have belted out some songs that could have been like leftovers from Release Therapy or songs that he was working on for Theater of the Mind that he just didn't feel like made the cut. And definitely more songs like Pinky Shinin', and maybe Throw It Up if it would have had like 2 or 3 times a better beat. But that's just kind of the concept. Ludacris really needed to make more songs like MVP off of Theater of the Mind, and more kind of smoking heavy type songs like Wood Wheel by UGK, and Three Kings by Slim Thug, and even like an overall kind of ambient kind of stepping out song like The Boss by Rick Ross. I mean, the beats that Ludacris snagged from other people are better than the beats that Ludacris picked for himself to make for original songs. That's kind of a disappointment because it kind of means that this preview kind of fell flat a bit. And that's just kind of the concept where I definitely think that Ludacris's beat selection for the most part is pretty good. I mean, there were some ones I really didn't like the Outkast beat. I really didn't like I did not like the Prodigy beat on here, Prodigy from Mobb Deep. That one completely didn't make sense. And I felt like Put On by Jeezy was kind of generic. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to tear that one apart. Ludacris didn't really distinguish himself on that one. And yeah, I mean that's about most of the ones I had a problem with on the project. But I mean, he picked a lot of good beats to rap over. But I do feel like between like the concept of there being too many guests on here and not enough Ludacris to really showcase it, and then the original productions kind of being haphazard and kind of modest lukewarm in terms of reception. I feel like this preview is kind of half baked. And this really kind of happens to be the concept, but it does have some. It's not a bad or paltry mixtape. It's just not a gourmet mixtape. And that's just kind of the concept where you get your gems, but I just feel like most people are going to be left feeling kind of more hungry. So the social score, based upon some of the stepping out singles, I'll go ahead and list some of the ones I feel like would be great to step out to. I definitely feel like Pinky Shinin', DTP Magic, Two Kings, Still Spittin', and like Throw It Up are all some great ones to kind of step out to, especially for like a summer type setting. This is definitely a summer project. There's definitely some night venue type feel towards it. In some cases, I could even see some of these, despite the fact that it's free, being played in like a rotation in a club or a place where you have to pay to get in or something like that. But it just kind of depends upon that. I mean, these are kind of backwash. All they're not backwash, but they're just kind of in the back of the rotation type feel towards it, where this would be a real kind of rainy day to hear some of these. But I still recommend it because it is some good stuff, and Ludacris can spit, and so can some of these guests. It's good hearing from Shauna again, I-20 again, Lil Fate, some of them. So that's kind of the thing. Um, the social score I will give like a 6 out of 10, just because it does have some joints, like I was trying to say. Social score in terms of how well it plays around your friends, 6 out of 10. Can this record be top? Yes, it can. And in terms of the future, Ludacris has just been gone. He's been sticking with the Fast and the Furious movies, so it's been a while as to where he's been and that type stuff. But I am going to start reviewing more Ludacris. I'm going to definitely get some more of these out and belted out and that type stuff. But I don't know when the next Ludacris project is going to drop. But this does have some bubblers on here, but it's just kind of a mixed bag in sorts.